I'm 34 male, structural engineer, own my house outright, and I was 3 months away from proposing to my girlfriend of 2 years when my mother died. Ovarian cancer. 18 months from diagnosis to gone. She was 61. Before she went into hospice, she pressed a small velvet box into my hands. Inside was her mother's necklace, delicate gold chain, Victorian-era pendant, seed pearls, and a small sapphire at the center. Appraised at around $4,200 as part of her estate. Worth everything to me. She looked me in the eye and said, "This is for the woman you choose. Not a placeholder. The one." I put it in my fire safe and started planning a proposal for the following spring. My girlfriend and I had been together about a year and a half at that point. I introduced her to my mother in the final months, and my mother was warm toward her. I want to be clear about that because it matters later. My mother liked her. She didn't give her the necklace, though. She gave it to me with specific intent, documented through probate. I told my girlfriend about the necklace a few weeks after my mother passed. I showed it to her once, explained what it meant, told her I intended to use it as part of the proposal.
She cried.
Said it was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Held the box for about 30 seconds, handed it back, and said, "She sounds like she was incredible." I locked it back in the safe. Here's the thing I didn't catch at the time. Within a few days of me showing her the necklace, she had described it to her sister in detail, including its approximate appraised value. I found this out much later through a mutual friend. Her sister had apparently made comments about how much she wanted it. My girlfriend never mentioned any of this to me. About 8 months into our relationship, I'd given her the safe code once, while I was traveling for work, because I needed her to retrieve some car documents from it. I texted it to her. One time. For one specific purpose. She never mentioned the code again after that. I proposed the following October at a hiking trail where we'd had our first real conversation. I had a simple solitaire ring. She'd pointed to something similar in a jewelry store window months earlier. She said yes. I'd planned to give her the necklace separately, at the wedding, as a something old. A private moment between her and the memory of my mother. Her sister came to visit in November, about 6 weeks after the engagement. I was traveling for work for 4 days. When I got back, my fiancé seemed slightly off, not obviously, just micro-tension that lives in the silences between sentences. I noticed it and filed it away. Then in early December, her sister posted a photo on Instagram. A close-up of a necklace she was wearing at some holiday dinner.
Gold chain.
Victorian pendant. Seed pearls and a small sapphire. I stared at my phone for probably 2 full minutes. I went to my fire safe. Empty. I sat down on the floor of my closet and didn't move for about 4 minutes. Then I picked up my phone and texted my fiancé one sentence. "Can you tell me where my mother's necklace is?" She didn't respond for 2 hours. When she did, it wasn't a call. It was a text. I'm going to quote it exactly because I've read it so many times it's basically permanent in my memory. I gave it to my sister. You never officially proposed with it anyway, so it's not like it had a specific purpose yet. She loved it, and it looked perfect on her. I thought you'd understand since we're basically family now. I read it twice. I typed back, "I see." Then I called my attorney. I want to explain the "I see" because people always ask about it. It wasn't shock. It wasn't weakness. It's what happens when a person who usually operates emotionally switches into a completely different register. Every feeling I had, the grief about my mother, the betrayal, the disbelief, went into a box. Labeled. Set aside. Because the worst thing you can do when someone hands you a loaded situation is react before you've thought it through. My attorney picked up on the second ring. I explained the situation in about 4 minutes. He was quiet for a moment and then said, "First question, is the necklace documented? Appraisal, photos, anything in writing?"
Yes.
When my mother passed, her estate went through probate. The necklace had been appraised and I was listed as the named beneficiary who received it. There was a paper trail going directly from my mother's estate to my possession. My attorney said, "This isn't a civil matter. This is theft. She took property from your safe, in your home, without your knowledge or consent, and transferred it to a third party. That's theft by conversion at minimum. Depending on value and circumstances, potentially felony theft. I said, "What do I do first?" He said, "File a police report tonight. Don't confront her. Don't ask for it back informally. Document everything first." I filed the report that night. The detective assigned to the case called me the next morning. Methodical, unhurried, spent about 40 minutes walking me through what she needed. I sent her the estate documents, the probate paperwork, the appraisal, photos of the necklace I'd taken when my mother gave it to me, and the full text exchange with my fiancé. She read the texts while we were on the phone. There was a pause, and then she said something I've thought about every day since. She documented it herself. That text is an admission that she knowingly took the item and transferred it to someone else. My fiancé had handed investigators a written confession and didn't even know it. While that was processing, I called my fiancé's parents. Her father answered. I told him calmly and without editorializing exactly what had happened.
He was silent for a long time.
Then, "She took it from your safe?" "Yes." Another long silence. "I'm sorry. I don't know what to say." Her mother got on the line a few minutes later and said something that told me everything I needed to know about the family dynamic. "Well, you have to understand, her sister has always admired beautiful things, and your fiancé just wanted to make her happy." I said, "The necklace belonged to my deceased mother. It was in my lock safe." That's the whole sentence. She went quiet. Now here's where my fiancé started working the angles. When she realized I hadn't responded to her text beyond "I see," and that I'd gone completely silent for 24 hours, she understood something had shifted. She started making moves. First move, she showed up at my house the morning after I filed the report. I didn't let her in. Spoke to her through the door and said I needed space to think. She cried, said she was sorry, said it was a mistake, said she hadn't thought it through. I told her I heard her and ended the conversation. She texted me 12 times that day. Second move, she called my best friend, someone she knew was a stabilizing voice in my life, and fed him a version of events where she borrowed the necklace to show her sister and had fully intended to get it back. My best friend called me immediately after and said, "She's trying to reframe this as a miscommunication. I thought you should know."
Good man.
Third move, and this one is the one that really showed me who she was. She had her sister post an Instagram story claiming the necklace had been a gift from the family and that any suggestion otherwise was harassment. The sister also sent me a direct message saying she hadn't known the full story and was innocent in all of it. I forwarded both to the detective without responding to either of them. The detective called me the next day. "We're going to bring both of them in for voluntary interviews." The sister's message actually helps us because it creates a documented contact between her and you. The gift claim will fall apart quickly. Your estate documents are clean. What my fiancé hadn't counted on was how airtight my mother's estate documentation was. The probate attorney who handled it was still practicing. He provided a letter confirming the necklace had been transferred to me as a named beneficiary. No ambiguity. It was mine. Taking it from my safe without consent, regardless of our relationship status, was theft. The detective explained this to my fiancé during her interview. I wasn't there but was briefed afterward. My fiancé had initially insisted the necklace was essentially already hers since we were engaged, and that giving it to her sister was just moving it within the future family. The detective told her, apparently with complete calm, an engagement doesn't transfer property rights. You're not married. Even if you were, taking an item from a locked safe without your partner's consent is still theft. The engagement ring he gave you is yours because he gave it to you directly. This necklace was never transferred to you in any legal or documented way. My fiancé, according to the detective, then cried and said she'd get it back immediately. The detective said, "That's not how this works." Then came the part that changed my understanding of everything. About 3 weeks into the process, I was sitting across from my attorney reviewing documents when he slid a page across the table and said, "Did you know your fiancé had access to your safe code?" I said, "I gave it to her once, about 8 months ago, when I was traveling. She needed to get car documents." He nodded slowly. She told the detective she found the combination written down in a notebook. But the detective checked. Your safe is a digital model. There is no written combination. It's a programmed code. She used the code you gave her. Let that land for a second. She had memorized the code from the one time I'd texted it to her 8 months earlier. She'd waited. And when the opportunity came, 4 days alone in my house while I was traveling, she'd used it deliberately. That wasn't impulsive. That wasn't a mistake born from wanting to make her sister happy. That was premeditated. She knew exactly what she was taking and planned around it. I called her father again that night. Told him about the safe code. The premeditation angle. He was quiet for a very long time. Then he said quietly, "She asked me for money last week. For the attorney. I gave it to her. I thought it was a misunderstanding." I said, "It wasn't. I'm sorry." He said he was sorry too. He sounded like a man who had just been forced to understand something about his daughter he'd been avoiding for a long time. Her mother never called me again. Her sister posted a vague caption about toxic people and moving forward. I blocked the sister. Her attorney tried a series of moves over the following months that, honestly, I have to give grudging credit for sheer boldness. Move 1. A letter to my attorney suggesting I reconsider pursuing this matter given the damage it would do to the upcoming marriage. My attorney responded with a letter that was politely devastating, noting there was no upcoming marriage, that the charging decision was made by the DA's office and not under my control, and that any further attempts to influence proceedings could constitute witness tampering. That line of pressure ended immediately. Move 2. A formal proposal that if I provided a statement saying the item had been loaned with implied consent, the charges would likely be dropped. Translation. They wanted me to lie in a written legal statement. My attorney explained this to me in plain terms, and I declined without a second thought. Move 3. Before sentencing, her attorney submitted a letter from my fiancé to the court describing the necklace as a symbol of our relationship that she had safeguarded on my behalf. The letter reframed taking property from a locked safe as an act of love and devotion. I have to be honest, the audacity of that letter impressed me in a purely technical sense. It was a work of creative reframing. The judge read it without visible reaction and proceeded directly to sentencing. The sister returned the necklace 8 days after I filed the report, through her attorney, along with a written statement that she had received it believing it was a gift and had no knowledge of my ownership. That statement kept her out of criminal exposure and was probably narrow enough to be technically true. She was not charged. I ended the engagement formally about 2 weeks after filing the police report, before the charges, before the plea, while my fiancé still thought there was a version of this she could talk her way out of. Certified letter, through my attorney. The ring question was handled cleanly. Under most state laws, an engagement ring given in contemplation of marriage is a conditional gift that must be returned if the engagement is broken by the recipient's fault. Given the circumstances, she returned it without contest. She called me once more after receiving the letter. I picked up. She said, "I just need you to understand that I genuinely thought it would be okay. I know that doesn't fix it, but I need you to know I wasn't trying to hurt you." I said, "I believe that you believe that."
She didn't have a response to that.
"Take care of yourself," I said and hung up. The case resolved about 6 months after I filed the report. She pleaded guilty to a reduced charge, misdemeanor theft, in exchange for the felony being dropped. 2 years probation, nominal restitution since the necklace had already been returned, and a conviction on her record. The necklace is back in the fire safe. Clean, repaired clasp, and I had my mother's initials and birth year engraved on the inside of the pendant housing after I got it back. It'll stay there until I'm standing next to someone who deserves to wear it. My mother said the one. Not the first one who cried prettily when she held it. My best friend asked me a month after everything resolved whether I regretted calling the police. Whether I'd been too hard on her. I thought about it seriously. My mother spent the last months of her life making deliberate choices about what she was leaving behind and who deserved what. She didn't have a lot. She put that necklace in my hands with specific words attached to it. My fiancé didn't just take a piece of jewelry. She reached into my mother's last act of care and handed it to someone who wanted it because it looked good in photos. Regret holding her accountable for that? Not even slightly. The safe has a new code now. 3 people know it. Me, my attorney, and my best friend. All 3 of whom have demonstrated a basic understanding of the concept of other people's property. It's a low bar. Apparently not everyone clears it. If this story hit you somewhere real, subscribe because I've got more to say, and the safe is still locked.